All right, guys, we're gonna have a little quick instructional video on how to um, make shapes in vCarve for the ShopBot, and just a little trick or two about how to make curved shapes, and also how to use the mirroring button to our advantage as we go through this. Now, our class is making skateboards. And so they have a blank deck here that's 1 foot by 3 feet. And so what we're going to be doing is making a skateboard design. But the hard part about a skateboard design is unless you want just a oval or a rectangle that's the same everywhere, it's hard to make the design the same in each portion of the board. And so I'm going to hopefully give you a couple tips on how to do that. So here's what I'm going to do to make life a little bit easier is I'm going to put 4 quadrants on our deck here. I'm going to do that using the line tool. And so since I know it's 12 feet, 12 inches in this direction, that's my first line to cut the board in half. And then my second line is going to be right down the middle at 18, and it's going to look like that. So now what I have is I have this board set up in 4 quadrants, and so you can see that is my setup. Now these lines don't mean anything because they don't mean anything until I actually make a profile for them, so they can just be there as just kind of placeholders, as indicators as to what's going on. So here's what I can do now. So I can do a couple things. I can just design this part of my skateboard right here, and then if I do that, I can then just use that design and flip it and mirror it in different parts of my board, as opposed to designing the whole thing equally. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I'm going to design this part of my board, maybe I want it to look like this, and then I want it to curve in, and then I want it to curve that way. So maybe that's what I want that part of my skateboard to look like. Now, here's what I can do. Instead of trying to make that same exact line there, and there, I can do a couple of different things. I can copy and paste this and put it over there, but here's an even easier option. I can use this mirror selected objects function, which was right here. And what I can do is I can create mirrored copies. So if I want the bottom of the board to look the same as the top half of the board, I can just click that button right there and flip it, and now I have that. And if I want the back half to look the same as the top half, I can shift select and have both of those selected, or I can do them one at a time, but I can have the back look like that. So now I have a board that is all symmetrical all the way around, as opposed to me trying to do it individually. All right, so I'm going to take a step back here, because what if I don't want my board to look like that? What if I want my board to be a little bit more of a smooth design, which you probably want? So here's another couple of tips. One is this node editing mode. So once you go and have your vector highlighted, you can go into this node editing mode. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to pull these pieces of the line around a little bit to make them move. I'm going to put that back to where it was. And what it also offers you is the ability to smooth some curves. So if I want this line to be smooth between these two pieces here, I can right click on this and I can smooth the point, and it smooths that out for me a little bit. Now, that might not be exactly how I want it to look, so I can go in here, I can zoom in, and I can take this line and I can turn it out here so that it looks a little bit better. I can do the same thing. I can smooth this line right here. Actually, I didn't smooth it, I pulled it. Let's right click on it and I can hit smooth point, and now that looks like that. So that's starting to look a little bit more like what a skateboard would look like. Now maybe I don't want it to go up that high. I can pull this in, and now it's looking something like that. I can also change this angle a little bit by grabbing this tab, and maybe I want to grab this tab and make it look something like this. I can pull this out, and you can see now I have control to kind of change these angles and make it exactly how I want it to look. I think I want to pull this back out a little bit again so it looks like that. So maybe you want the front of your board to look like that. And all those little changes that I did, if I try to do those 4 different times, that's going to be really hard for me to do. So because I have all of these now pretty much where I want them to be, I can go back and I can select this, and I can use my mirror selected objects like I did before. And if I want the bottom of my board to look like the top, I can just click that, and now I have my board that looks like that. Now, if I want the back of the board to look the same as the front of the board, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I have a pretty cool looking skateboard, I would say, right? Just by designing that top left quadrant. If you want the back to look different, well, then what I would do is I would design the back however you want it. Maybe you want the back just to be a square, and you want it like that. Well, then I can design the square, and then I can flip the square over, and now my board looks like that. I prefer something like this, right? And where we flipped it, and where we had the back looking like the front, and we were good to go. Now, once that's done, if you want, you can get rid of your lines. So I'm just deleting those. If you're using a Chromebook, you might have to right-click on it and hit the delete button. So I have that. And then one last thing. So because these are all individual vectors, we want to join these together. So I'm going to select them all. You can select them a couple different ways. You can click on one, and then you can hold down Shift while you click on the other ones. All right. And then what I want to do is I want to group them together. And now when I group them together, they're one solid line. So when I go over here to make my profile toolpath, it's going to do the toolpath just for that one solid line. All right, so I hope that was helpful. It gave us some tips on how to use the node editing function, which was in here, that allows us to pull and mess with this quadrant, and also this transform feature that allowed us to use one quadrant to help us with all of the rest. Hope that was helpful. Check out our other videos, and good luck with your designs.